Welcome back to Insights at DDLynn Designs, a unique twist in the ancient art of wire. Hello, everyone. This is DDLynn, or Deanna, however you'd like to refer to me, as long as it starts with a D. Anyways, I got a great feedback on my poll that I posted on my Facebook and my YouTube page, and everybody wants to learn how to make these links. So I came up with this concept a long time ago. I'm always encouraging everybody to please play with the wire. You never know if you can't try. So it's really easy. And what's really cool about this is that it's a double loop. In the middle, at least it appears that way. It's an illusion. It almost makes it look like they're floating, or if they've been soldered on the back. So it's just kind of a really cool look. I'm using 20 gauge wire, and you can use 18 gauge. If you're going to make a necklace link, I would recommend no less than 20 gauge. You need to use 20 gauge or stronger. Okay, so we've just got all these beautiful chain links. I want to give you some inspiration before we get started. And if you're new to my channel, please subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell so you know when my tutorials are coming out next. And your comments and feedback, you guys, hey, a ray of sunshine, a smiley face, a thumbs up, anything you'd like to say, as long as it's kind. Okay, so I want to give you a lot of inspiration. You could put beads in between these. All of these, you could put a ton of jump rings. What's really cool about this, and I want to show you, is I'm making a custom chain for this piece that I think many of you have seen. I've had 45,000 views on my Facebook, which was great. They finally decided to share my content after 5 years. It's amazing that you just wait on bated breath, but I really don't. So anyways, I wanted to show you what's really cool about these links is it just beautifies your chain, but in the same token, it gives you more length to work with. So instead of cutting a bunch of jump rings or 2 little 1/2 inch, you get almost 3/4 of an inch. So what I meant by 2 little 1/2 inch, you're doing little 1/2 inch loops or links of any kind. It gives you more length to extend your chain faster. And of course, if you add in beads and you do a triple loop on your beads, that will give you more length. I do recommend, if you're going to wrap beads, that you use 20 gauge, because this wire can bend very easily if it's softer. But isn't that pretty? The whole chain thing there, with those beautiful links in there. So I wanted to give you inspiration for that. Second thing I want to tell you is you can make earrings, you can make a bracelet, you can make a pendant, you can make a bar necklace. So I used 18 gauge here, and I'm going to put some beads in the middle of them. And I did different sizes, a little tiny number 1 on top. I think I used a number 4 here and a number 3 here. Now, so you can have a bar link necklace, just a very simple necklace hanging straight down like that, or you can do a bar necklace like this. And I think that would be so pretty. And I would just add a very delicate chain, because there are some ladies and guys out there that like very simple things. Now, if I was going to do this for a guy, I would use 16 gauge, make it more bulky, and I would use bigger barrels to give it, I think just more for a guy. Anyways, I just wanted to share that all with you. So let's get started. So what I've done is I've cut 3 pieces, because I'm going to show you how not only to make the double loop, but if you turn it over, it's a figure 8. Do you see the figure 8? So we're making our little figure 8 here. That little figure 8. And that's simply by going in the opposite direction of what we're going to do right now. So I've got my 3.5 inches of 20 gauge dead soft copper wire. I'm not using tarnish resistant wire or coated wire, especially if you're going to go to market, because it will wear off. I can't tell you how many people have asked me, can you do anything for me for this? And I'm like, no, that's why I don't work with it. Now, I will do little blowouts with it, but I tell people right away, this is a plated wire. If you scratch it or use anything sharp on it, you'll take it off and then you'll expose the bare copper underneath. And those are little pieces that I just blow out or give as gifts. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we want to make sure our end is flush, okay? And we're going to start with our number 1 on our 6-step bell making pliers. Now, if you're new to my channel or new to wire wrapping, I'm very beginner oriented. And if you haven't seen these, they're called 6-step bell making pliers. But they're not just for bells. They're designed to make loops, even loops, because when using a chain nose, and let me show you, okay, the barrel is tapered. It starts smaller on the top and then gets bigger on the bottom. So these are used for a multitude of things. I did a tutorial all about tools and I talked about these, but these keep the loop size exactly the same in circumference, and they go from smaller to bigger. I call these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's probably why they called them 6-step barrel making pliers. So anyways, we're going to be using the number 1, and we're going to be facing it away from us. I'm going to be rolling away from myself, and I'm going to put the tip in. And you want to make sure that you don't feel the tip of your wire. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it. I'm going to start looping it away from me. And I'm holding my wire down on an angle because you want the cut end to come around on top. So let me show you that. You want it to ride on top of the wire that we're twisting around below. And then you just want to keep turning until you get to 2 rotations, until it comes up almost to the middle. Now what you're going to do is take it out. You're going to turn your work over to where the cut side is facing down and the loop is curving to the right. You're going to get your number 2, and you're going to put your wire in between, and the number 2 is going to be facing away from you. Now, I teach privately, and I'd found when I taught this to my students that it was much easier for them to have a little gap in between the loops here. You can do it closely and start twisting it, and I'll show you here what I mean, but I just found that it's easier for them, so I'm going to teach you that technique. So all you're going to do is just push your wire, then you're going to adjust your wrist. Notice how I'm turning my wrist, opening my plier up and turning my wrist. Then you're going to push your wire, and then as you're coming around and you've got this little U in the wire here, you're going to bring the wire underneath. So you want to bring, oh, I'm catching up on my little loop there. You want to bring it underneath. And then what you want to do is you want to start rocking it in and then push that wire over, and you want it good and snug up against the other loops right here. You don't want gap in there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it out. I'm going to turn it over, and I'm just going to put my plier back in here, and I'm going to push this wire up a little bit more. Now I'm going to get my plier because I anchored my wire up a little bit. I'll show you what I mean. Do you see that gap? And I'm just going to flatten that. Just flatten that out. Now you have this, a little figure 8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my work over. So I'm going to tell you how you need to look at this. You want the cut side facing up, okay? So that's really important so that we can go into our next step. Now you want to turn your piece to where the loops are facing down, or towards you, I should say. So like this. Then you want to get your number 2 in here again. Leave yourself a little bit of gap. And you can just push this wire around, then adjust your wrist. Make sure you keep everything on an even plane. I was not on an even plane there. And then push your wire under. And then all you're going to do is just roll. Roll it until it's nice and snug up against the other loop. Then just push that wire over. Then we're going to take it out. And if I got in there and created a little anchored up my wire a little bit, I'll just flatten it down, and I'm just going to push the wire up. So now we have these 2, there it is. We have these 2 loops that appear like they've been, like I said, soldered on the back or floating. They're just touching each other, but nothing's connecting them. At least that's the illusion. I just thought that was so cool. I saw all of that when I came up with this. So now what I'm going to do is my cut side is now facing down. Okay, I'm bringing this in my best working position. I'm going to go back into the number one. I'm going to leave a little gap, and I'm just going to start to turn that in, and I'm going to push that wire under. Now, before we go any further, I just want to comment. If you find it's hard for you to work with a little short piece of wire, cut yourself 4 inches. Give yourself more working wire. And then I'm just going to start holding all 3 loops very firmly, and I'm going to start rolling that in until it's nice and snug with the other loops, and then I'm just going to push my little wire over. Then I'm going to turn around. I'm going to come back in with my plier. Now I anchored that wire up again, so I'm going to flatten it. I'm going to come back in with my plier, and this is what I mean by if you can't work with the short end. I'm just going to swing this around, grab it with my fingernail, and then I'm going to adjust my wrist and just swing it all the way in. Now, I'm going to take my plier out, and I'm going to cut it sort of in the middle. So if you think of the middle line all the way through this, if there was a middle line going all the way from top to bottom, and if you find it difficult to cut your wire when it's so close and flush to the other loop, then just lift up on the wire. And this is a big shout out to Jennifer. This is a gal that follows me on my Facebook and comments a lot, and I just love all our chattering and going back and forth. And she was asking me about how do you keep the edges from being sharp and etc. And so, and how do you get in there easily? Just lift up on your wire so you can give yourself some working room so you have a little gap space. And then you can just come in and snip it. Then you come in with your flat nose and you just flatten it. And if you find that it's not curling in at all, you can just come in with your little flat nose here and just roll the wire in a little bit and just roll that in. Now this one is too long. Do you see that? It's sticking out. I don't want it to stick out. So I'm going to come in. If I can get my plier in there, and I'm just going to snip that. So now you just want to turn it around. You want to make sure that everything is nice and on an even plane. If it's not, and you find one side higher than the other, just get your plier on the outside and rock that in a little bit to straighten it up if that's what you need to do. You can also come in with 2 flat nose pliers if you find that it's pitching down or that your loops here are kind of going down a little bit. You can just flatten that out and straighten them up. So that's our beautiful little chain link. So now I'm going to show you how to make the figure 8. And it's the same thing, but all we're going to do is alternate the direction that we're going. Instead of to go under, we're going to go over. So let's do that. So you want to make sure that your end is flush. I'm going to get the number 1. I'm going to make sure the tip isn't sticking out. I'm going to hold my wire firmly, and I'm going to roll it as my wire is angled down. I'm going to roll it in. Now I'm going to give you another tip. As you come around, this is going to help you keep your tip, the cut end, more curled in. As you come around, get your plier on top of that tip, and I mean push it in. Just really push that in. Then keep swinging around, keep rolling. And you notice how close my fingers are to the barrel? Because I want to keep my wire straight, and that's good right there. Then I'm going to turn my work over. The cut side is facing down. I'm going to get the number 2. I'm going to leave myself a little gap space, and I'm turning my wrist, opening it up as I'm going around. I'm going to, oops, this time we're going to swing up. Last time we swinged under, so this is how we're going to make the figure 8. I'm so in a habit of doing it that way. Now you're going to swing the wire up and over. You're not coming underneath, okay? Then I'm going to adjust my wrist, and I'm going to swing that wire over, and then I'm just going to start holding my little loop here very firmly, rocking it in. Just going to rock it in until it's nice and snug. Then I'm just going to push that wire over. I'm going to come back out, back in, and I'm going to push it up. I'm going to take my plier out, and we're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to turn my work over. I'm going to have my loops facing down towards me, or it's up, but your cut side is facing up, okay? I'm going to get my number 2 in here, and this time I'm not going to forget. And you're going to roll the wire on top. So I've got my little gap space here, and I'm just adjusting my wrist, swinging my wire over, adjusting my wrist, and we're rolling it on top this time. And this is going to give us our figure 8, and I'm just going to keep rolling it back. And then I'm going to push my wire over. Now I'm going to come out of that. See our figure 8? Do you see it? The cut side is on the back, just going in the opposite direction. And I'm just going to pull that wire up. Now I'm going to turn my work around. I'm going to face my loops down. The cut end is on the back. It's not sticking up. I'm going to get my number 1 in here. And I'm going to do the same thing, but this time the wire is going to go under, okay? So I'm going to push the wire under, push it all the way over and around, and then I'm just going to start rolling, just rolling it in until it lines up with my figure 8. Then I'm just going to push my wire over, take my pliers out, put my pliers back in, and swing this guy around. Now that's a short little tail there, so please use more wire if you think, oh my goodness, that's going to be too hard for me. Completely understand. You have to work within your own limitations until you progress. And you can't progress if you don't try. So now I'm going to come in and trim that. I don't want it sticking out at all so it doesn't cut anybody. And I can see the other one, I think on the other side is too far, and it is. So let me show you that. So see how it's coming over to the side? I don't want it to do that. I want it to be in the middle. So I'm just going to cut that, and I'm going to flatten it down. Now I'm just going to make an adjustment here. This side's a little high for me. That's okay. I'm just letting you know for me it's a little high. So I'm just going to come in with my plier, hold firmly, and just rock it down a little bit. So we have this. So we have our figure 8 and our double loop that looks like it's floating and or has been soldered. I hope you enjoyed that, everyone. I really do. So give me your feedback. Tell me if you have any questions, and just be creative and make something beautiful. You could make adorable earrings with these. Drop a bead down here, put a bead up there, make a bracelet and put beads in between. You could put little beads in between each of the middle loops. You would just make bigger loops. So if I wanted to put a bead in here, let's see if I have anything out that would fit in here. I don't, but let me show you quickly. I'm going to use, I was going to stop, but I'm not now. I'm going to show you very quickly. So I'm going to use my number 2 just to make my loop very quickly. Then I'm going to use my number 4, which is this one. You could also use the number 5. I won't have enough wire to demonstrate the whole thing, but I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to come around, bring the wire up underneath, swing it around, and rock in. Now I would use 18 gauge for something of this size. Then I'm going to come out, swing my wire back up, and then you could drop a bead in there. And that would make a beautiful bracelet. I would use a 20H gauge weaving wire with this bead because it's got a big hole. Or you could just make one more loop on top and do a smaller bead. I don't have a smaller bead out, but I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to come into my number 2 this time because I've got very little wire left. And I'm just going to roll around. I'm going to bring it around the back. It's probably going to look like a snowman, which is what I don't want. I'm just going to push my wire over, bring it back in, and I'm just going to start rocking the plier around that loop so I can tuck it in. But I just wanted to give you some more inspiration on what you could do here. It does kind of look a little bit like a snowman, sort of. But anyways, you could do something like that with the bead in it and make a beautiful little delicate pendant. You could make a bracelet, earrings, the sky's the limit. So I hoped you enjoyed that, everyone. Here's the 18 gauge, our 20 gauge, figure 8. No, that's the double loop. Here's our figure 8. I hope you all have a magical wire wrap day. Bye for now.